Hi, thank you so much for joining me. This is Kelly with Captiva Home Decor, and today I'm going to show you a quick video about dry brushing. So we've been painting this piece for, we got started a couple days ago, and I showed you how to get a really nice base coat on there because we want to make sure that we have great coverage, and especially with a very detailed piece like this, there's so many carvings and really intricate, pretty pieces that we need to make sure that we got the paint all the way in so that when we hit just the highs with the dry brushing, that we have a nice gradiated, layered look. So that's what we're going for here. We started with basil, so this is a really pretty sage green, and I thought that'd be fun because of the natural elements we have here. So there's some flowers, there's some vines. So a couple days ago I showed you how to get all that. There's a video on our page about that, so if you want to learn the foundations for this, check that out. And now we're going to come in for the fun part. So this is where we're going to add a lot of dimension and a lot of texture to this piece. So it already has some really interesting carvings, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we highlight those, as opposed to if we just left it like this, it's pretty, but we can do more. So what I've done is already painted with basil. We decided that antique white, can you read that, would be a great color to complement. So I took a little bit, I put it in my handy little paint cup. There's like a 1/4 inch, and that's probably way too much. So we're just going to use a little bit. And today I'm just using a regular paintbrush. Purdy, it is pretty standard. And I want to make sure, I didn't want to use my Klingons because the whole benefit there is that they have really nice coverage. And here we're looking for kind of feathering layers, and the Klingon wouldn't be great for that, I don't think. So this is what I usually use, that's what I'm going with. So, the secret is going to be light touch. So you want to make sure that you're really just grazing the top. You want to do multiple light layers as opposed to one even heavy stroke, because that can not be the look that you're going for. So you want to make sure that instead of going hard, which is going to be too much, it's just light little taps. And I also like to go against the grain. So we're just kind of, I almost have this parallel to the piece, and I'm just lightly brushing. And that's even probably too much. So what you can do is wipe off your brush. So I have a rag here, nothing special about it, and I just took some off, and I'm going to come back in and just very lightly feather it, and you want to try to hit the edges of your details because that's where you're going to see the highlights. So lightly brushing, and then you can come back in and get some of the detail spots. So if you have a smaller brush, that might be ideal. And you always want to be going against the grain, basically. So like here, if I want to hit this pretty little detail, I don't want to actually go with it like you would to paint it. I'm going to come back in and do some vertical strokes so that I can just hit the sides. Because you don't want to cover the whole entire piece. You're just looking to get those high spots. So, and then something like this where it's got a nice kind of oval detail, and it has a lot of different pieces. So it's hard to come across completely and do that. So you're just going to go and approach it from a few different angles, and now I'll brush like this, and really that's it. It's a very kind of relaxing technique, and it's really used to hit in this spot the highlights, whereas if you're doing something like glazing or waxing, color washing, those things are going to actually get in the details. So that's going to highlight, or I guess it's going to shadow the back side of your carvings. And then here what we're doing is highlighting the tops. So yeah, you can barely see that. So what I might actually do, depending on how it dries, the other thing is don't do too much. You are much better off starting with a few light coats, letting it dry, seeing what happens, and then coming back in and doing another coat, rather than doing a super heavy high coat, heavy coat of anything. Because that can be hard to recover from with a technique like this. If you do have some brush strokes that you don't particularly like, you can always just paint right over the piece, but you would have to let it dry and start over. So that's why you want to avoid doing a heavy coat, because you might have to end up starting over in order to get the coverage or the look that you're looking for. Whereas if you do a few light coats, you're going to be able to control that better and hopefully avoid any issues. So this is just, like I said, feathering it in. You can see this detail, right? So over here, again, across the grain. And if you've noticed, I haven't even reloaded my brush. We're really going for very little, using very little paint here. So this can be a great way to use up some paints that you have on hand or to introduce a new color. So that can be a really fun way to add a lot of dimension to a piece or just have some fun with it. I find this technique is really great to use and to play with on like decor pieces. So if you have some smaller pieces, this is a great way to just kind of experiment, learn your paints, learn your colors, see what you like. So decor pieces, like if you're making a sign or something like that, or just like, you know, painting some little things that you have around. That can be a really fun way to play with dry brushing. Or any technique. It's great to experiment with smaller pieces and then move on to the large piece. You want to have a little bit of experience before you go tackle a giant dresser. Those can be a challenge. So the other thing to keep in mind is we don't want to go with the lines of the piece necessarily. So like this is a long straight leg. I do not want to come back in and do a whole brush stroke down there because it will likely color the entire piece and I'm not going to get that layered look. It's just going to be a stroke and that's not what we're going for here. So, you see down there? A little bit. So here, it has some really pretty details and I'm just going to go across the grain and hit the highs. At this point, I'm not super happy with the way that the colors look together. So I will be doing something else most likely. I don't know if it's another color or it might be, thank you, yes it is gorgeous. It might be coming back in and doing like a glaze or a color wash like I talked about to hit the backside. This piece has not been sealed. We use milk paint, so it does have some protective qualities. So if you use actually anything. So if you're using a wax like Annie Sloan or something, what I would do is the dry brushing before I waxed and then use the wax after. If you're using a colored wax, it might alter the highlight dry brushing. So you do want to keep in mind the colors that you are working with together. And when you do a technique like this, where we are just brushing on, feathering on top, and then if we use something like a glaze or color wash after, that is going to alter the entire piece. So keep that in mind. Might be what you're looking for. But it's kind of going to be a fluid piece. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, so we'll see. But this is it. Can you see the details down here? No, you can't see that, so we're not going to talk about that. But you can tell here, this is without dry brushing. This is hitting the highlights, and it's pretty, but I don't think it's enough. So I think we're going to do more. What you can also do is on the top. So if you're doing a, let's move that up, a full, like a large panel, a large flat, what I like to do is just kind of start at the edge and feather in a little bit. But I don't necessarily like to do a full stroke across because I think that can be too obvious, I guess. Here I just want to hit a little bit and brush it off. And then what I like to do is do a bit of a cross hatching sometimes, just because it creates another element of interest. But I don't think we'll do the entire piece. So if you have any questions, please leave them. This is just a quick video. It's the middle of the day. I have a million things to do. I'm sure you do too. But I did want to show you the next steps here. And it looks like we'll probably be doing something else. So maybe I'll show you that too. but this is just a super easy, relaxing way to play with your paint. So, if you have any questions, please leave them. I thank you so much for joining me. This is Kelly with Captiva Home Decor. We're keeping it short and simple today. So let me know if there's anything I can help you with, and I'll be sure to show you the rest of this sometime. Thank you so much. Have a great day.